Hi friends. Welcome back. Today's video, I wanted to just do a really quick unhauling video because I recently had a clear out and I'm getting rid of a bunch of books that I've either read and won't read again, haven't read, or ones that I've got two versions of and I just want to keep a hold of one. I'm going to do this super quick because I have already filmed this video once and it was a disaster. And now I have about 15 minutes before I need to get back to work. My phone is about to die, so the pressure is on. Let's see how much of a mess I make of this. First up is The Final Empire by Brandon Sanderson. I have this as part of a box set, so I don't need a second version. Not read it yet. I'm hoping I will love it, but I've got the full box set, so I don't need to. Then there is The Devil Makes Free by Tory, and this is like a YA horror set in the backdrop of a university or a expensive high school, also known as a private school. And yeah, the vibes are great. I read it once, I enjoyed it, 3 stars, but I just won't read it again. After Dark by Muricami, I read this, really enjoyed it. It's super short, and I picked this up, liked it, so I wanted to pick up more of Murakami's work. So I did and read The Wind-Up Bird Chronicle, and that was hands down the worst book I've ever read. So because of that, I've completely gone off Murakami, and I just don't think I'll ever read this one again. Then we have Wilder Girls by Rory Power. I know that this author was involved in some really problematic shit a while back, but I read this way before then and didn't even enjoy it when I read it. So I'm getting rid of it because I didn't enjoy it and I'll never ever read it again. The Familiars by Stacy is a historic fiction. It's set in the backdrop of the witch trials in England, and I think the main protagonist is some kind of lady or duchess or something trying to get pregnant, and she hires a midwife who may or may not be a witch. I'm not sure if she is, and I've not actually read the book. I really was interested in it, but it's been sat on my shelf for over 2 years, and I just never even think about picking it up. So if I do decide to ever read it, I'll just either do it on ebook or audio or borrow it from the library. Then we have The Foxhole Court by Nora Sakovic, and I appreciate this is a bit of a Bookstagram, Booktube, Book Twitter favourite. It's like YA, NA, probably not NA, set in a university, and it centres around a sports group. Can't fully remember what the sport is called, but essentially I didn't enjoy this book that much. So I don't need a copy of it because I probably won't continue with the rest of the series. But if I do, I believe the full series is on Scribd, so I will just listen to it on there. And there is Meddling Kids by Edgar Cantero. I was obsessed with this book when I first started reading it. Scooby-Doo is one of my absolute favourite cartoons, TV shows ever, as from a kid, and even now, to be fair, I just love it. This is kind of like a Scooby-Doo retelling, and I was really hopeful for it. Loved it for like the first half, and then it just kind of died off for me at the end. So I don't think I will pick it back up ever again, and I have no interest really in keeping it on my shelves. Then we have The Nature of Witches by Rachel Griffin, which is a book that I read in December, so a really recent read. I ended up giving it 2 stars. I just really didn't enjoy it, but some of you might, because the premise is absolutely great. So it's a YA book, and it centers around these witches whose power comes from the season. So you've got spring witches, summer witches, winter witches, so on and so forth. The whole thing is a story really about climate change and fighting climate change. And I imagine a lot of people will absolutely love this. For me, I just weren't really that engaged. I didn't really like the main character, and I felt like the romance in it was really rushed and just boring. Another YA with One of Us is Lying by Karen M. McManus. I enjoyed this. I thought it was a really good thriller. I read it a couple of summers ago, and yeah, I've got nothing really bad to say about the book. I just have no interest in carrying on with the series, so I don't really need this one. And it's got cool sprayed edges. I'll give it that. House of Hollow by Crystal Sutherland. I read this again in the second half of 2021. It's like a horror thriller mystery type book. It was good. I really enjoyed the vibes. I think I gave it 3 stars. Yeah, the vibes were great. The characters were really interesting. Really liked the mystery behind it, and the twist sort of at the end was good. I think some people will really love it. The body horror elements are exquisite. I just will never read it again, and if I do, I would actually be interested in picking up the audio just because I feel like it would be a much more immersive experience. And we have Witherwood by Hannah Mathewson, which is a book that I was gifted a while back. It's a fantasy YA set in London, and the main character discovers that there is another London, giving me kind of V. Schwab Shades of Magic vibes. But the magic system's really interesting. The characters are really cool. I just don't think I'll ever read it again. It's quite a chunky one as well for AYA. So if this sounds up your street, definitely check it out. Detransition Baby by Tory Peters. I was so excited for this when it first came out. I rushed to the shop to buy it. I did a buddy read of it, but I DNF'd it about 150 pages, 200 pages in. I really tried. I just couldn't connect to it, and I didn't love it. But one thing I will say is that I am so happy that Tory Peters got recognition for this and that so many people loved this last year, because it's so important just to support trans authors and trans stories. It's just sadly this one worked for me. A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. A lot of people shit on this book. A lot of people shit on the fans of this. I'm not there for people shitting on the fans. If you like this book, that's fine. I absolutely hated it. Another one that I DNF'd after about 100 pages. I have no interest in the series. I've got no interest. Sorry, my cat's just come in. Got no interest in carrying it on, and yeah, I don't need it on my shelves because I'm never going to read it. Leave the World Behind by Rhuman Alam, and this was good. I read it quite quickly, actually, quite fast paced, really interesting premise. It's set kind of like as the world might be ending, and this family are on holiday in this cabin, and then the owners of the cabin come and seek refuge. Really interesting. I didn't love it as much as I thought I would, and there's probably a lot of stuff that I didn't pick up on. I genuinely could not stand the main mum. She was just insufferable. But yeah, overall, it's just one I won't read again. And I'm sure somebody else out there would much prefer to read it and love it. Turn of the Key by Ruth Ware was one of the first books that I read when I joined Bookstagram, and it was good. I really liked the premise. The plot was good, intriguing. It's set in Scotland with in this really old house that has been modified to have loads of different like technologies in there. It always felt like there was somebody watching throughout, and the story follows a woman who has got a job as a nanny, and she has to go look after these weird kids with this weird family. Your typical kind of thriller, really decent payoff. I know what happens, so I won't read it again. Gravity of Us by Phil Stamper is a book that I really wanted to love, and I really tried. And I really liked the plot. I thought the plot was super interesting. The setting was really interesting. The whole space and NASA and reality TV combination was really good and really well done. I just could not stand the main character, and the whole book is told, I think the whole book anyway, is told from his point of view, and I just really didn't like him. I really could not get on with him, and that just, it ruined the whole experience for me. But definitely a good queer YA book that I think a lot of, especially teenagers, will read and just fall in love with, because I reckon that as a teenager I probably would have done, but I'm not the target audience, so that's completely understandable. And finally, we have The Outsider by Stephen King, which is a book that I've not even read, but the reason I'm getting rid is just because recently I've not really had much of an interest in reading Stephen King novels. I think I mentioned it on here before. I've just kind of really fallen out of love with his writing style, and I felt like maybe I was only reading him so much previously because I am a horror fan, and I just thought that's maybe something that I had to do, which is absolutely ludicrous. I just feel like he takes so long to write one thing, and the writing style just really isn't for me, at least not right now. There are some of his books that I will happily pick up and read. Carrie, I think, still stands up. People say it's not his best, but I think it is actually one of his best, my personal opinion. And Misery I really enjoyed, but even that could have been for me about 150, 200 pages shorter. The past few books of Stephen King that I have tried to read, I have just DNF'd. I do have other Stephen King books on my shelf in nice collections, and there are books in there that I haven't even picked up yet, so one day I probably will do it. If I do, I can see that being more in his classic horror genre as opposed to his thrillers or his crime stuff, because I've not had the best experience of those books. That is it. And do you know what? I have done this in 13 minutes and 10 seconds, so I'm quite happy with myself, because it means I've still got time to go downstairs and make a brew before I go back to work. So well done for me. This video might be dog shit in the edit, so we'll see, but it can't be any worse than the last one. If you've got this far and you've watched all this, thank you so much for sticking around. I really appreciate it. Hope you have a really good day, and I will see you soon. Bye.